Hey everybody, welcome to Universal Man, and today we've got another episode of the Porn-Free FAQs. This is a series where I talk about frequently asked questions that I get around quitting porn and rebooting your brain. And today's question, what we're going to be looking at is, did I just relapse? You wouldn't believe how many times I've gotten this question. Someone will shoot me an email and they'll describe to me this story of what they just did sexually, and they'll say, did I relapse? Do I need to reset my counter? And, I get it, right? It's like you want to know, did your streak just disappear? And it's kind of frustrating because sometimes there's some gray area there, right? And what I want to do today is kind of offer you a breakdown of how to answer that question. So at the heart of answering whether or not you just relapsed, it kind of depends on where you are coming from and where you are trying to go. Okay, so let's start with just the typical scenario of someone who's been, a rather, normal and frequent porn user. All right, someone who would regularly masturbate to porn. All right, what would be a relapse for them? Clearly it would be someone who goes back and masturbates to porn. All right, no brainer there. But that's usually not where the issue is. Usually the issue is in I watched porn for, 5 minutes and maybe I rubbed my junk for a little bit, but then, I walked away and then I came back and I looked at it and then I walked away again and then I was done. It's like, did I relapse? And so, it really comes down to your best judgment here, because you got to be careful. You don't want to be too strict and say, I looked at that woman and had a lustful thought for a second, so I relapsed. But you also don't want to be saying I watched porn for 45 minutes, but I didn't actually climax, so it's not a relapse. No, okay? Let's be honest with ourselves. If you fully and knowingly sit down and indulge in porn, then let's call that a relapse, okay? If you jerk off and you're doing hard mode, let's call that a relapse, okay? Now, what about if you looked at some naked models, okay? It wasn't quite porn. Maybe you did it for 10 minutes and you didn't masturbate. What would you say there? I would say that's still pretty much a reset, but not necessarily a relapse. So there can be a distinction between a reset and a relapse. So, if you want to be really specific, you could say a relapse is when you fully engage with the behavior. But what's almost more important is acknowledging the reset. When do you restart your counter? Okay. And if you engage in an activity like looking at naked models for, 10 minutes or whatever, that's pretty comparable to watching porn. It's pretty close. I would just, regardless of how you label it, you should be resetting your streak because you gave in. You made some poor decisions there. Now, on the flip side, if you kind of on autopilotly look at some porn for 5 seconds and then shut it down, you didn't fully, as soon as you woke up and realized what you did, you walked away from it. Well, I wouldn't necessarily reset at that. That would be, you kind of have to grant yourself a little bit of a grace period for the more rational part of your brain to wake up. Now, don't be using that as an excuse to do that, but, you don't need to be crazy. So what I've just described, that's for someone who's doing their first 90-day streak. But I would say things change as you get beyond that point. If you become a more advanced rebooter, then you're going to want to basically become more strict. If you want to, if you're really trying to eradicate, lust from your life and align your sexuality in the best way possible and practice sexual transmutation and all that kind of stuff, well, then eventually you're going to have to get more strict. And so at this point, you started kind of a new streak. You change the rules a little bit. And it's maybe for you, you count it as a reset whenever you go on to certain Instagram pages to look at models, or you go to certain websites where it's not explicitly a porn website, but you're going there to try and snag a look at someone attractive, or maybe it could even be something as like using certain kinds of apps like dating apps and just swiping through them in a porn-like manner. All right, whatever it is, whatever level of strictness you want to hold yourself to, eventually you should be holding yourself to that, right? You just can't necessarily go from 0 all the way up to, complete sexual self-mastery. It's going to take some time, and you don't want to be so strict in the beginning that you're unable to acknowledge the progress that you're making. At the end of the day, when it comes, did I relapse? Did I not? Should I reset my streak? Should I not? I have a simple rule of thumb, all right? If you feel like resetting your streak would be unfair to you, don't do it, okay? If you're just kind of bummed and mad at yourself, well, that might be a sign that, hey, you should take the L and use this as an opportunity to grow, go through, the stuff I have about learning from relapse and grow and make sure that it doesn't happen again. Okay. The big thing you want to avoid is telling yourself it's okay when it wasn't really okay. So that's what I have for you guys today. Hopefully you found this useful and answered your question of whether or not you relapsed, and hopefully you didn't. Hopefully you're just tuning into this, checking it out for future knowledge, for theoretical knowledge, because you're going to be staying clean and you're going to be staying sharp, right? So I'll see you in the next one. If you're ready to kick your porn habit and start thriving in real life rather than living in a fantasy, then check out my free Reboot regimen guide by clicking the link in the description. In it, I'll teach you the system of simple lifestyle and habit shifts that I've used to help thousands of guys quit porn and transform their lives. Also, if you want to see more content like this, then you just need to press 2 buttons, the subscribe button and then the bell button to turn on notifications. And if you could leave a like while you're at it, I'd really appreciate it.